To this new episode, and in this episode we have to read about the promise, in this case the chapter 2, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, the chapter 2 title is The Family. Pedro and Maria often remembered the words of the old woman. The baby was called Paolo, and after Paolo they have no more children. Pedro was not able to find a job. Sometimes he found work for a few days. He worked as a porter and washes dishes in a restaurant. Maria made a little money. She washes and mending clothes. The work was hard and people did not pay her much money. Food was expensive and Pedro and Maria were always hungry. Paolo was hungry too. He cried all the time. He was small and thin and weak, but he did not die. For a long time, Paolo stayed inside the hut. After 3 years, he was able to go outside and play with other children. His arms and legs were very thin. His legs were twisted. The other children called him Palito, a thin stick, and he was called Palito for the rest of his life. One day, Pedro came running home. Maria, Maria, he shouted, I've got a job. I have a job. A job? Asked Maria. Where? With the bus company, replied Pedro. I got to be a bus driver. Now we should have enough money for food. Pedro worked 12 hours a day as a bus driver. The wages were not good, but he was happy. He was paying his wages every month, and every payday he came home with a large parcel of food. His family were never hungry again. One evening, Pedro came home late. He had two young girls with him. Palito, he called, come and meet your cousins. Palito ran to his father and looked at the girls. This is Fernanda, said Pedro, and this is Odette. They're your cousins and they're coming to live with us. Palito was 9 years old now. He was pleased to meet the other children. They all shook hands and walked up the hill to the hut. Fernanda was the same age as Pablito, but she was much taller. She was a very pretty girl and walked proudly. Odette, her sister, was 2 years younger. She was pretty too, but she was shy. She cried all the time and covered her faces with her hands. And the two girls have lived in another town with their parents. They had have cow fire and their parents were there. Their mother was Pedro's sisters. Now they were coming to live with Pedro and Maria and Palito. They were soon like one family. Pedro sent all the children to school. Palito was not a good student. He did not like to study, but Fernanda and Odette helped him. He learned to read and to write quite well. Fernanda learned very quickly, but she soon forgot her lessons. The best student was Odette. She studied hard and remembered her lessons. Every day after school, Palito played football with the other boys. They usually play football for an hour. After that, they swam in the sea and rest in the sunshine. Then they played football again until dark. Palito's legs were still twisted, but they grew thicker and stronger. Palito enjoyed this game. At first, the other boys knocked him over. But slowly he became more skillful. He learned to turn quickly and carry the ball past the other boys. People often stopped and watched him playing. Sometimes Fernanda and Odette went to the beach with Pablito. They watched him playing football, but usually the two girls have to stay with Maria. Pedro had both an old sewing machine, and Maria made clothes for rich ladies in the town. Odette helped her and became very good at swimming, but Fernanda did not like swimming and she was very careless. Fernanda took these clothes to the houses of rich people because she was pretty, very pretty. People gave her more work. She took the work back to Maria and Odette. They were always busy. Pedro was not a happy man. He was still poor, but he had work and his family had enough to eat. Pablito grew bigger and the neighbors began to talk about him. Look at Pablito, they say. He is a man now. Why isn't he working? Pedro smiled and he did not reply. He went to the beach every Sunday and watched his son play football. You know, Maria, he said to his wife one Sunday's evening. I've been watching Pablito carefully. He is really good. He is going to be a footballer. I have to enjoy this story and thank you for this opportunity. See you. Bye.